Today will be a kind of an overview of Transfer Thought 1.0. Why virtual reality? So my background is kind of in that virtual reality space. I kind of started with games, moved into training as a great application for VR. As we've talked to hundreds of training professionals, directors of training, lots of people in the safety industry, and overall training has kind of been this thing that isn't very popular, often with employees. And our goal, like high level goal, is go from it being like a down part of the day to one of the best parts of the day, that they want to talk to people about this training that they did. So we're using VR to bring in presence, autonomy, agency into training. And we've also tried to make it as accessible as possible, by having it work on any VR headset as well as on your mobile phone, or as well as a laptop. That's what we'll look at it on today. And why we created Transfer Thought was kind of came out of me doing lots of different VR projects before this company, and they all tended to be more expensive, in my opinion, than they needed to be, because there's a lot of boilerplate code that need to be rewritten every time. And so we wanted to create a solid foundation, where people could focus on just what makes their training experience different, rather than building it up from scratch. And we wanted the subject matter expert to be able to do it themselves without hiring developers, because VR has been this tool that I think a lot of people have been excited about, but then they'd get a quote and it would rule it out unless they had a big budget to do an experiment. We've made it so anyone can just jump in. And we even have a free tier, which we'll talk about a little later. So I think we can just jump into looking at Transfer Thought 1.0 and the actual interface. Does that sound good, Keenan?
Yeah, let's hop on. I think yeah, just to kind of echo what you're saying with kind of hope I'm building VR to make it accessible to everybody. We've had this kind of North Star in our mind where if you can build a PowerPoint, you can now build VR training. And that's kind of what the launch is about, is finally feeling comfortable of saying that if you can build VR, or if you can build a PowerPoint, you can build VR training. So I'll open it up and kind of just run through.
That's a good point, Keenan. Just to echo what you're saying, that was the original tagline, was that if you can build a PowerPoint, you can build VR training. And we've tried to map the interface after that kind of getting in that PowerPoint mind, it should feel the same. It should feel like, depending on the context, why build a PowerPoint if it would just be just as much work to build this really engaging VR training. And I guess another element of that kind of in the content creation process. So we've tried to really shrink it where, in a big VR project with developers, there's lots of stages where you might, start by writing a script and then making storyboards, and then bringing those to an instructional designer to even polish it more, and then it finally gets to the PowerPoint. We wanted to try to squeeze all that together so you can just jump into Transfer Thought and kind of stream of consciousness start creating something, and play around with it, that it's more of a sandbox feel. Because at least for me, that's sometimes how I use PowerPoint. I start just putting ideas into there. And so we wanted that similar feel.
Yeah, let me maybe it'll be good to just hop on to an example really quick.
That's
Uh,
a good idea. Yeah,
uh
let's show what the end product,
yeah,
what you
and
can
maybe I'll
create.
do two things is I'll show the kind of the laptop version and then I think we have a recorded version of it launched on a headset too.
Oh yeah, I can pull it up for recording.
Yeah, let me pull this up. So this was an example built on Trent. You guys can see my screen. All right. Yeah, this is an example, and kind of as Frank was talking about, was VR really being powerful to give you a sense of presence. So this is something that would maybe be too expensive to have the whole crew out for a blind spot awareness training, and kind of take this machine out of use for a training. But for in this case, you can actually play this and have them kind of experience the blind spots of this dozer in a headset, or as I'm doing it on my laptop, or even on a phone. So I'm going to play this and I'm going to pause it so I can kind of look around for a second.
Welcome to the Dozer Blind.
Yeah, and if I can just piggyback on that, to set up that this specific training was for the mining industry, and they work with really big, heavy pieces of equipment, and the blind spots are tremendous. And so this training is not just for an operator, but anyone that's working around this equipment. The equipment's really expensive, so to do this type of training, you'd have to take this piece of equipment out of, out of the field, and that's costing money. Also, this specific type of training would be very difficult to do without VR, because what we're going to see is we're going to jump out of the cabin and look around, and we'll see that there was things we couldn't see. And to
Okay.
achieve that without VR, the person would have had to put on a blindfold or something while they're in the cabin.
This just to make it a little real. This is maybe how it would be done without VR or without something. Um, this is pretty this is pretty challenging to really get a feel for. But I think putting them together, I think there's synergy between looking at this for a quick reference and also being able to go through and actually feel it with the VR experience. So yeah, let me just let it run, and we can kind of just take it as it goes.
Spot awareness training. Today's lesson will help operators be more aware of blind spots on the job. We are using a virtual reality course creator platform called Transfer Thought with 360-degree images. Sign up for a free account at transferthought.com. You are now in the dozer's cab. Use your mouse to scroll around the cab to see the different angles. Look out the windows. If using a mobile phone, move the phone around to see 360 degrees. For total immersion, use a VR headset. For headset access, click the three dots in the bottom left corner of the screen to be totally immersed. You can click the CC button to remove the closed captioning words from the screen. Check your rear view mirror for obstacles. Click to show that you check the rear view mirror for obstacles.
Yeah, so this is kind of the first prompt that just to kind of acknowledge that you're looking around. We could have added some information in here about trying to see. You can see that the only way you can see this van is actually through this rear view mirror. And that's the only line of sight that you'd have on it.
Take a look out of the front window. Do you notice anything? Click to acknowledge that you have checked the front window.
Same here, just kind of looking for your blind spots. Just take note that we don't see anything out this front window.
Take a look out of the rear window. Do you notice anything? Click the icon to acknowledge that you have checked the rear window.
We're kind of just going through our checks, and
now,
this can be
click the walking icon to see the objects from a ground view.
This can be completely customized to your equipment or anything like that, or your training material. So if there's any if this is not just off the shelf, this would be something that is completely customizable.
Take a look at the front of the dozer. Did you notice that you could not see the man from the cockpit? Click on the man in the front of the dozer to acknowledge.
So here is the kind of the acknowledgement that we could not see him from the front, even though he was there. So while you're standing on the outside, you might expect that this would be visible, but you don't really get that feeling until you're actually in there.
Correct. Always beware. Sometimes you cannot see people and objects while in the cab. Great job. What color was the bulldozer that you reviewed in this session?
So this is just kind of showing that you can throw in other things, bring in your existing content in here if you have multiple choice questions in your content, or we have a picture choice just to kind of make it all visual. And
That
make
is
sure
correct.
You're paying
The
attention.
dozer is yellow. Next, we will show you a more simple text multiple choice quiz. How many dozers did you see in this session?
Oh, you know what? I'm not.
You weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
Try again.
4.
Correct. There was 1 dozer in the scenario and 3 in the picture quiz.
Oh, okay.
I tricked you.
Little humor there. So yeah, that was kind of the live demo. This was something that was made on the platform and works on a laptop, a mobile device. So you could send it out with micro learnings or anything like that embedded into an LMS, and also launch it into a VR headset. So I don't know, Frank, did you say you had that video?
Yeah, I can share that. And I guess the other thing to point out is this was made by Steve. I don't know how much you want to. He's not our CTO.
Yeah,
How long did this take you? Steve?
Not long. So that after I figured out how to do it, it took me a couple weeks, but once you figure it out, it's really simple. That whole scenario probably took me about 20 minutes because I already had the words and the pictures and all that stuff. Obviously, cutting and pasting is all it was. Literally took me 20 minutes. But if you don't have the pictures and you don't have the data and the words and the text, it just takes a little bit longer typing it all in. But
Right.
yeah, and I'm not a very technical person. Like, I don't design, I don't code. I am a sales rep, and that's it. So it's a really easy system to use and to operate.
So you're saying the hardest part was really the assets, the coming up with the copy and not creating it. Okay.
This is just a quick snapshot at this is the editor view. So this would have been the view to actually kind of build the environments. Maybe should we run through this first or run through the VR example?
I mean, you have this pulled up. Let's just take a high level look at it.
Yeah. So just kind of quick overview of everything. We try to build it like PowerPoint. PowerPoint is pretty universally used and familiar with across all industries really. So on the left hand side, much like slides, we have a concept, we call them steps. So you can have multiple steps in a training scenario. So and you'll see each one has their own like icon because we have different step types. And that's a good way of just knowing when you're on this step, what's going to happen. So these little like mountain icons, those are for setting the environment. And the environment can be anything from, we're in the dozer, but it could also be, we jump out of the dozer down here. So those are different environments. These other environments, I think were set here so that you could look around. So if you want them to notice something, you can point them in that direction, and you can do that through the environment. Otherwise, we can have a title overlay, similar to just, this is more similar to a PowerPoint with just text on it. And then you'll see these little icons here are for our hotspots. So that's when you actually want them to kind of point and interact with the actual environments. where down here we have the picture choice. So that's more like a traditional 2D text-based or picture-based multiple choice question. And those are kind of just a brief overview of everything that is in this scenario. But we have additional types here. So if you wanted to show an image overlay, something like this would have been a great one. You could bring this into the training environment. So you could show them the actual dozer that you're looking at. These are the blind spots, and you can incorporate that into the training. And then some other things you could do would be embed a video. Like if you already have a training video that you want to get them up to speed, that's something that you can embed in there as well. And kind of the last one, not in this one, but we have in some other examples where you actually put out a fire with a fire extinguisher. You have this option to add a advanced interaction, which you can really just hook into the this more for like advanced users. You can hook into the scenario engine or the simulation engine and do anything you wanted with the environment. So when you're adding in, if you have 3D models and you wanted to add those in, you could do that. And if you wanted to manipulate them, you could do that here as well.
Is there, sorry, real quick.
Yeah.
Is there a limitation to how many steps you can have in a procedure?
No, technically, it's probably like 1,000. But yeah, we've seen like
that far, but
yeah, we've seen probably anything from like 100 to 200 being a good.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, that would be a longer one. So this advanced interaction is where you could make like any sort of step type. And we'll be talking about it a little later this week, but we will be kind of releasing a way to make many more step types. The other thing that just to tease later in the week for the environment, you can do a lot more now in TransferThought 1.0. You will be able to kind of build out any of these environments. You can kind of think of as really the setting, a point in time. Where are you? And we've expanded what an environment can be. So there can be lots of, we're looking at a photorealistic picture right now, but we can superimpose things. Like we could make it look like there's a crack in the glass to notice that as a hazard. Without taking this into Photoshop, we can just kind of drag a decal over it. We can also put 3D avatars in it. But where it gets really interesting, and again, we'll kind of take a deep dive on this later in the week, is you can build out simulation aspects like things that you can interact with. We have another example we could look at is fire extinguisher training, where you actually have to grab the fire extinguisher and follow the past protocol of pulling the pin, aiming at the base of the fire, sweeping, and you have to go through those steps to progress and pass. The rest of it you can kind of think of after every this is that left bar, you can think of it as slides, but you can also think of that as a really simplified timeliner. We've worked with software that has, timeliners before, if you've edited video or anything like that. Timeliners do have a place, but to me, whenever I see one, my instant thought is I'm going to be spending a lot of time in this. We've tried to boil it down to more just thinking about it. These are moments that you're going to go through, and that kind of it works the way people think. They kind of remember moments rather than, at 30 seconds this happened or at 20 seconds this happened. They remember more, hey, this is when I jumped outside of the cabin. Another thing to point out here is that we're doing this all in the browser. So when you do create one, it's easy to share with a link. And I guess we should look at the publishing options. But the other thing we didn't show was that you can kind of customize it to your brand as well. Like we had our coach at the bottom. You can change that icon of that coach that was in the bottom to be, you know, your company logo, the person responsible for training on the site, or, you know, some sort of mascot. So you can really make this yours.
Yeah, no, that's nice that you can do that.
Yeah.
I definitely would love to, you know, download and have a, you know, a demo account or whatever you guys have to kind of play around. We're doing something, you know, kind of similar with another, you know, another manufacturer, but it does require more work. So this to me is seems to be very straightforward, very quick. And it sounds like most of the images that are in there, or the initial screen there, is all done just through images, multiple images. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. So you can use a 360 camera to capture these images. Another thing we're going to announce this week is an asset library where we have a giant collection of computer generated images. If you want something like, we should have basically every environment you would need covered, but also will provide a way to request additional CGI images. By CGI, I'm meaning, like, you know, like a kind of like a video game type view. And sometimes those are necessary. For example, like a nuclear facility, sometimes there's issues where you can't take photos inside of it. So that's when we've been asked to make computer generated 360 images that kind of are more generic, since yeah, we weren't able to take the photos. Yeah, so Steve just pointed out the sign up link for the free account, and you'll be able to, you have access to create unlimited courses, and you can share your courses with a link. Do you want to show the publish option, Keanan?
Yeah, I'll pull it up right here. Yeah, so all accounts you can edit and build and publish. As Frank was saying, everything's shareable with a link. So you can send it out in an email, a message, you know, however you just send somebody a website. And then there are other options like embedding it. So you can embed it into your website or another you know, maybe place that you'd have employees or trainees visit. And then this one, I have the pro account, but when you actually want to embed it into an LMS and start, you know, tracking things like that, that's when you'd upgrade to the pro tier. And then you also have, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, no. So when you say that would be something that we would do, we would upload to our LMS. So there is a different version of,
Yeah,
I guess, accounts.
that would be, yeah, that would be like the pro kind of version. So if you can build it all and test it, and we kind of have that, we call it like a pilot, where you can build it and pilot as long as you'd like. And then when you're ready to embed it and start getting real trainees and employees using it, you'd upgrade it to that pro tier.
We had a question from David too. He asked, how would we able to access it through a headset? So if you could show that, it's really just web-based. You just click the link in the bottom left corner of the screen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
I can do my share.
Let me,
It's a similar scenario as we just looked at. Instead of me putting the headset on, we'll just watch a.
Yeah, David, this is a recorded video of him actually doing the activity, and it's
Okay.
recorded, so you can see with the headset on what it looks like.
Right.
And this is I'm in this video, I'm using the Oculus Quest 2 or the Meta
Okay.
Quest 2 now. But it is compatible with every VR headset. So
And
what
again,
we'll
it's
do-
just a link. It's literally click a link in the headset and it pops up. You don't have to load it onto the headset or do anything to download it. It's literally a link.
right,
Okay.
or a matter of going to your LMS through the headset, or that embedding option was kind of similar to like a YouTube video. It's the same process as putting a YouTube video on a site. You can do that with any transfer thought that you create, and it'll be like a embedded
Gotcha.
on your site, except it's interactive. So in
Yep.
this case, I used the MetaQuest browser. There's a web browser in it, and you just go to the link, and then there's these 3 dots down here.
Yep.
You click those, launch, and now it's a similar experience, except you can kind of see like you're using your head to move the camera now, and you have hands to point around. And so
Got it.
this does open up some new options when we were talking about the advanced interaction steps. If you do want to make a training where they have to make more intricate movements with their hands, that is possible. It's always fun watching this recording for me because it looks like someone's there with a GoPro mounted to their head or something, except for the disembodied hands, of course.
Very good. No, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Good.
So this is, I mean, from my experience doing VR development and kind of our journey getting to here, that getting it on the headset, that's one of our biggest advantages over any VR development right now, because that last mile of getting your custom VR software onto a headset, or let's say 100 headsets, has always been it's been a pain point. And so we made it, that was our first like version 0.1 was really that feature of one click to publish, and now it's available at a link. And then kind of the next thing we did was we ran a challenge, 30 days with like 6 different subject matter experts, and can we make training simulations in 30 days? And it was because we shaved off that deploy, we were able to.